In this video, you'll witness 6 harrowing shark attacks, from a great white storming a beach concert in South Africa to a deadly ambush off Australia's coast. Each story reveals moments of terror, survival, and the raw power of nature's most feared ocean predators. Prepare for stories that'll haunt your dreams. The June air burned hot along the South African coast, drawing hundreds to the long golden curve of Grotto Beach near Hermanus. On June 12, 2025, the shoreline excitedly buzzed as a beach concert unfolded under a cloudless sky. A mix of tourists and locals packed the sand, music pulsing from massive speakers, while food stalls and drink stands created a festival atmosphere. Among them was a group of Russian travelers celebrating Sergei Volkov's 40th birthday, a surprise trip organized by his partner Lena. They laughed, danced, and soaked in the warm Indian Ocean breeze. By dusk, the crowd had swelled. Many people were flushed from the sun and drinks, their feet digging into the sand as the live band kicked off a new set. Kids splashed along the shallows while adults waded farther in, their bodies glowing under the orange-pink sky. It was easy to forget that just beyond the gentle swells, the waters were home to one of nature's most efficient predators. South Africa's coast, especially around Hermanus, has always drawn great whites, and while shark spotters work tirelessly, no system is perfect. That evening, visibility dropped as light faded and the ocean turned darker, hiding what approached beneath. Around 7:15 p.m., Sergei and 2 friends, Anton and Victor, waded waist-deep into the water, laughing, their feet sinking into wet sand. Nearby, a few teenagers swam with inflatable tubes, their shouts mingling with the music. Lifeguards remained alert, but their attention flicked between the stage and the sea, the crowd loud and distracting. No one saw the shadow. It came fast, cutting through the water with terrifying precision. An 18-foot great white, massive and scarred from years in the deep, surged upward in an explosion of foam and blood. Its jaws clamped around Anton's upper thigh, yanking him under with such force that the water geysered behind them. The screaming began instantly. People in the water thrashed backward, kicking and splashing as the water turned red. The shark reappeared moments later, this time slamming into a young woman floating nearby, its teeth tearing deep into her abdomen. She shrieked before vanishing beneath the surface, only to be hauled back up by 2 frantic swimmers as blood poured down her legs. Lifeguards sprinted into the surf, whistles blaring, arms waving. Another victim, a teenage boy from Johannesburg named Mauls, tried to escape with his younger brother, but the shark surged again, its head breaching in a violent thrash that knocked both off their feet. Its jaws missed the younger sibling, but caught Miles's shoulder, tearing muscle and shattering bone before diving back into the dark. Panic rippled across the sand. The music died. People screamed, dozens running away from the shoreline, others crying for help. 2 lifeguards reached Sergei, who was trying to keep Anton afloat, but the blood loss was already shocking. One rescuer applied pressure to the mangled leg, while the other scanned for the predator, heart pounding. 7 people had been attacked before the shark finally disappeared into deeper water. A mother had been dragged briefly before losing a calf to the powerful jaws. An American tourist named Elise had her forearm shattered. The youngest victim, a 14-year-old girl named Tasha, had been standing in waist-deep water when the shark bit into her back and side, leaving her floating unconscious before her cousin pulled her to shore. Emergency teams arrived quickly, and chaos transformed into desperate urgency. Beachgoers assisted with towels, belts, anything to slow the bleeding. Lifeguards moved from victim to victim, their hands slick with blood, their voices sharp and steady despite the horror. Bodies were lined up across the sand, not dead, but broken, trembling, and crying out in pain as paramedics fought to stabilize them. Helicopters buzzed overhead, airlifting 3 of the most critical patients, Anton, Tasha, and Miles, whose injuries had exposed bone and severed arteries. The others were rushed by ambulance, some conscious, some slipping in and out. Sirens echoed over the dunes as the sun finally dipped beneath the ocean, casting a surreal calm across a trauma scene. That night, no one died, but none escaped unchanged. Surgeons worked through the night. Anton lost his leg above the knee. Tasha underwent emergency surgery to reconstruct her spine and torso. Miles's shoulder required metal plates and weeks of intensive care. Elise's arm was saved, but permanently damaged. Each victim faced not just a long physical recovery, but emotional wounds that would linger far longer. In the days that followed, the town reeled. Beaches emptied. Officials reinforced shark protocols, calling for more surveillance, tighter swimming restrictions, and a review of the concert's placement near open water. Experts debated what had triggered such an aggressive event: a mistaken feeding response, stirred by music and crowd movement, or perhaps a single rogue shark that had wandered too close and responded as apex predators sometimes do. Locals mourned their sense of safety. Tourists fled early, the memory too raw. Sergei stayed at the hospital with Anton, who had once been a soldier and now cried quietly each night. Lena visited every day, her hands shaking when she held Sergei's. The other victims, scattered across hospital rooms, shared a silent bond, one forged in pain and blood beneath a sky that had turned from gold to red in a matter of minutes. The beach eventually reopened, but the concert was never rescheduled. Surfers avoided the area. Warnings were posted, drones patrolled, and lifeguards remained hypervigilant. Still, the image of that massive great white breaching the surf, jaws wide, muscles coiled with prehistoric strength, haunted the community. Hermanus had always known the risks, but this attack, so sudden, so violent, so close to celebration, left scars no tide could wash away. The victims would survive, but they would never again step into the sea without remembering what it took from them, or how quickly joy turned into terror beneath the waves. The hidden cove near Mazunte in Oaxaca, Mexico, had become a viral sensation among backpackers and adventure seekers. Tucked between cliffs and tangled jungle, the spot was famous for its 15-meter jump into a turquoise pool, where sunlight danced on the surface and echoing cheers bounced off stone walls. On June 18, 2024, the cove was crowded with travelers drawn by social media clips and adrenaline dreams. Among them was 27-year-old Elise Moreau, a French backpacker on a solo trip through Central America. Elise had arrived the night before with a group from her hostel, eager to chase what everyone promised would be a thrilling, unforgettable experience. Athletic and energetic, she had surfed in Bali, trekked through Patagonia, and cliff jumped in Thailand. Her Instagram chronicled it all, a scrapbook of daring stunts and sunburnt joy. The cove seemed perfect, beautiful, remote, and exhilarating. The tide had risen that morning, flooding the inlet with cool seawater. The cliffs rang with laughter as people lined up on the ledge, cheered each other on, and took turns leaping into the clear water below. It was hot, the kind of heat that made sweat bead instantly, and Elise welcomed the relief of the plunge, feeling weightless as she flew through the air and crashed feet first into the depths. She surfaced quickly, blinking salt water from her eyes, smiling, brushing hair from her face. No one saw the shadow glide from the mangrove channel connecting the cove to the deeper sea. The bull shark had been patrolling the murky water beyond the inlet, drawn inland by the season's change. Locals knew that early summer brought shifts in salinity and temperature, which often attracted bull sharks into the estuaries and brackish channels, but warnings were scarce. Tourism was too valuable, and the cove too popular, to scare people away. Just as Elise began to swim back toward the rocks, the shark rushed in from below, its powerful body slicing through the water with terrifying speed. It struck without hesitation, jaws locking onto her left arm from elbow to wrist. The force drove her underwater as bubbles exploded around her, and the surf swallowed her scream. The shark shook once, violently, its serrated teeth tearing through skin and tendon, then abruptly let go, retreating in a swirl of blood. Above, tourists screamed and stumbled back from the cliff's edge. Some dove into the water to help, others froze. Elise surfaced again, her eyes wide with shock, her mouth open in a silent cry as blood spread around her like a crimson halo. Her left arm flopped unnaturally, the lower half shredded, muscle and sinew exposed, fingers limp and colorless. A local tour guide named Mateo, who had been helping people climb up the rocks, reacted instantly. He leapt into the water, reaching Elise in seconds. Wrapping one arm around her chest, he kicked hard, pulling her to the ledge as she trembled, her body going limp. Blood streamed down her side and her breaths came short and fast. The moment they reached the rocks, he yelled for help, pressing a towel against her mangled arm, then unbuckled his belt and tightened it just above her elbow. Someone called emergency services. Others used their shirts to cover her, trying to keep her conscious. Elise's face had gone pale, lips tinged blue, but she clung to the edge of awareness, her body racked with pain. The tour boat arrived 15 minutes later, skimming across the waves, its crew leaping ashore with a stretcher. They stabilized her quickly, then carried her down the slope to the waiting boat, which raced toward a clinic in Puerto Angel. Doctors later said that the shark's bite had torn through most of the tendons and shredded skin from the joint down. The bones had been cracked, but not severed. Elise underwent emergency surgery that day, and then several more over the following weeks. Skin grafts were taken from her thigh and upper back. Surgeons rebuilt the shredded muscle as best they could, though her left hand remained partially paralyzed. Physical therapy began almost immediately, but the emotional toll cut just as deep. The attack made headlines across the country and then around the world. Videos from that day, though none showed the shark itself, captured the chaos. People screaming, others diving in, blood in the water, and the frantic scramble to help. Social media amplified the shock and triggered questions that wouldn't stay quiet. Journalists began asking how such a popular location had no posted warnings or safety precautions. Marine biologists pointed out that bull sharks used the mangrove channels nearby as feeding grounds during the early summer months. Several locals quietly admitted that sightings had occurred in the past, especially after heavy rains or seasonal changes. But tourism had boomed around the cove. No one wanted to scare off the visitors. The government investigated, interviewing tour operators, property owners, and local officials. Despite the connection between the cliff-jumping inlet and deeper shark-accessible waters, they confirmed that no official risk assessment was ever made. Pressure mounted for regulation. The cove was temporarily closed, patrols were increased, and new signs were posted warning of seasonal marine predator activity. For Elise, the damage had already been done. She stayed in Mexico for several months, enduring a long, painful recovery. Locals and fellow travelers raised funds to help with her medical costs. When she finally returned to France, her left arm bore the unmistakable scars of the attack: muscle loss, discoloration, and permanent limitations in movement. Her travel blog stopped. Her social media posts turned quiet. But over time, she shared what had happened. In interviews, Elise described not only the attack, but the fear that came after, the nightmares, the sudden panics, the guilt of surviving. She said she remembered the feeling of the water going still, the rush from below, and the crushing pressure of those jaws. She didn't blame the shark. She blamed the silence, the absence of warnings, the failure to inform travelers of what lurked beyond the beauty. The cliff-jumping cove eventually reopened, but never with the same carefree energy. New regulations require guides to carry emergency kits and keep swimmers closer to the rocks. Tour groups shrank, and though people still came to jump, many paused, looking into the water longer than before, imagining what could rise from the depths without warning. Elise's story remained a cautionary tale, an unforgettable reminder that danger can be only a heartbeat away, just beneath the surface, in places where wild beauty meets human thrill. The sun hung high over the east coast of Mauritius, casting a shimmering light across the endless turquoise ocean. The day was perfect for adventure. Warm air, gentle breeze, and crystal clear water, revealing the coral reef beneath like a vibrant mosaic. Layla and Sam, cousins from Johannesburg, had spent their first day on the island exploring beaches and markets, their excitement growing with every discovery. On June 20th, 2023, they were eager to try something thrilling, renting a jet ski to ride the gentle waves, chasing freedom on the water. Sam was 19, tall and athletic, with a smile that always hinted at a dare waiting to happen. 2 years older, Layla was cautious but adventurous, a balance to his wild spirit. When they reached the rental shop near Trudeau Douce, the vendor handed them the keys with a half-hearted warning about reefs and currents. They nodded, too eager to listen. The jet ski roared as they sped along the coast, the salty spray kissing their faces. They navigated toward a reef pass, where the ocean opened into a shallow lagoon, turquoise and inviting. The water was calm and clear, with coral heads dotting the sandy bottom. They stopped the jet ski just beyond the reef's edge, deciding to swim and cool off. Layla slipped into the water first, feeling the cool embrace surround her. Sam followed, laughing as he dove under and popped back up, water streaming from his dark hair. The sea was peaceful, almost hypnotic, with schools of fish darting around the coral, glinting in the sun. For a few minutes, it felt like paradise. Then the water changed. Without warning, Sam screamed, sharp and sudden. Layla turned toward him, eyes wide in terror. He was struggling, pulled downward with a terrifying force, as if the ocean itself had grabbed him. Her heart pounded wildly as she reached out, grabbing his arm and yanking, but his weight was like iron. He disappeared beneath the waves. Layla's scream tore through the air as she searched for him. The water churned violently near the jet ski, bubbles rising in a furious swirl. Then, just beneath the surface, she saw a massive tiger shark's striped flank twisting in the sunlight, its jaws snapping shut with bone-crushing power. Panic slammed through her as the shark circled, moving slowly but deliberately. She clawed at the water, trying to pull Sam back to safety, but the shark's presence was a shadow she could not fight. After moments that felt like hours, the water stilled again, leaving only ripples and the fading sound of distant screams. Layla scrambled back onto the jet ski, trembling uncontrollably, her wet hands shaking on the handlebars. She tried to radio for help, but the device was dead, and the nearest boat was too far to hear her calls. Hours later, a local fisherman spotted her drifting near the reef pass and took her to shore. The island's emergency services were alerted, and a search was launched. Days passed with no sign of Sam, until finally, a grim discovery. His severed leg tangled in seagrass near the edge of the reef. The skin was shredded, torn by powerful teeth. The incident sent shockwaves through the community. Local news reported the attack somberly, while experts explained that tiger sharks were known to frequent the waters around Mauritius, especially near reef passes and estuaries. They were solitary, territorial predators, and their presence often went unnoticed until tragedy struck. But beneath the official statements, a darker secret surfaced. Locals whispered about illegal fish dumping in the nearby bay, a practice that some fishermen use to attract larger fish and increase their catches. This toxic waste, tossed carelessly into the water, had drawn predators like tiger sharks closer to shore, disrupting the natural balance and putting swimmers at risk. It was a secret kept quiet for years, until now. When questioned, the jet ski vendor denied any responsibility. He claimed he had warned renters not to stop near the reef pass because of dangerous currents, but could not control where people chose to swim. Witnesses contradicted him, saying he had repeatedly told others to avoid that spot, aware of the shark's presence but unwilling to close the lucrative rental business. The investigation dragged on, but no formal charges were ever brought. The island's tourism officials expressed sympathy, but emphasized that such attacks were rare and unpredictable. For Layla, however, the damage was permanent. She left Mauritius silently, refusing interviews and avoiding the cameras that sought her story. The cousin with whom she had shared dreams of adventure was gone, taken by the ocean's dark depths. Her world had shattered in a moment of terror beneath a beautiful sky. Sam's death became a cautionary tale whispered among travelers, a reminder that paradise sometimes hid deadly secrets. The jet ski rental continued, but with stricter rules and new warnings posted near the reef pass. Patrols were increased, and environmental groups pushed harder to end the illegal dumping, hoping to restore balance to the fragile ecosystem. Layla's grief lingered like a shadow, an invisible weight she carried across continents and years. The memory of that day, the clear water, the sudden attack, the striped shadow beneath the waves, haunted her in quiet moments. She never returned to the ocean. Ultimately, the jet ski horror was more than just a tragedy. It was a sharp, painful lesson about the fragile line between thrill and danger, between human recklessness and nature's unforgiving power. And it was a story that would not be forgotten. The morning air off Guadalupe Island was crisp and salty, carrying the unmistakable scent of the sea. British wildlife filmmaker Owen Shaw had dreamed of this moment for years, filming great white sharks in their natural habitat, capturing raw, unfiltered footage that would bring viewers closer than ever to one of the ocean's most elusive predators. Known for his daring style and insistence on immersive shots, Owen had earned a reputation for pushing boundaries. This trip in June 2021 was no exception. Owen was 38, lean and hardened by countless dives in challenging environments. His dark hair was cropped close, eyes sharp and alert beneath the surface, reflecting a passion that often outpaced caution. The Guadalupe expedition team was small but experienced, composed of divers, camera operators, and boat crew who understood the thrill and the risks involved in filming such a dangerous animal without the usual protective cage. The island's waters were famously clear, a deep blue that stretched endlessly under the sun. Sharks patrolled the depths, some reaching lengths of over 15 feet, their presence both awe-inspiring and menacing. For Owen, filming inside the cage was routine, safe, controlled, but the cage also limited his shots, making the shark seem distant and constrained. This time, Owen insisted on a freediver outside the cage, hoping for a more immersive view, a visceral connection that could not be replicated. The crew was tense, but trusting. They knew Owen's methods and had prepared meticulously for the dive, checking safety lines and ensuring quick access to the boat. Owen slipped into the water smoothly, the wetsuit clinging to his frame and fins propelling him toward the feeding zone. The sea was calm, and sunlight pierced the surface in brilliant columns. As Owen floated and scanned, waiting for the sharks to appear, minutes passed. Then suddenly, a massive shape emerged from the depths, a 15-foot great white. Its gray body was marked with the distinctive white underside, and its dark eyes reflected a primal intelligence. The shark approached slowly, circling with deliberate grace, curious but cautious. Owen remained still, breathing evenly through his snorkel, camera poised to capture every movement. The shark's powerful tail flicked, stirring the water around him. The moment felt suspended in time. Man and beast locked in an ancient dance beneath the waves. As the shark circled closer, Owen decided to surface, needing to adjust his snorkel and communicate with the crew. He broke the surface smoothly, taking a breath when suddenly the great white lunged with explosive speed. Before Owen could react, the shark's massive jaws clamped down on his left shoulder and upper back with a crushing force. Pain erupted instantly, white-hot and sharp, tearing through muscle and flesh. The ocean churned around him, blood mixing with salt water as Owen struggled to break free. His lungs burned, panic surging as adrenaline flooded his system. The shark shook its head violently, trying to secure its grip, but Owen fought back with every ounce of strength. On the boat, crew members watched in horror as the water exploded with movement. Without hesitation, they dove in, urgently pulling Owen from the water. Hands gripped his arms and torso, hauling him aboard as the shark circled briefly before retreating into the depths. The cameras kept rolling, capturing the chaotic aftermath, the frantic rush of the crew, Owen's bloodied form, and the sea slick with crimson. Owen slumped against the side of the boat, breathing ragged, his vision blurred by pain and shock. The wound on his shoulder was deep, flesh torn away to reveal muscle and bone beneath. Blood flowed freely, soaking into his wetsuit. The crew applied pressure, wrapped him in towels, and radioed for medical evacuation. Despite the severity of his injuries, Owen's pulse remained strong. The emergency helicopter arrived swiftly, whisking him to the island's clinic where surgeons worked tirelessly to repair the damage. Multiple lacerations required stitches, and nerve damage was assessed as a serious concern. It would be months before Owen could regain full movement, and the emotional scars ran just as deep. News of the attack spread quickly across the wildlife filmmaking community and the general public. Critics condemned Owen's decision to dive without the cage, labeling it reckless and irresponsible. They argued that no shot was worth risking life and limb in such a dangerous manner. Shark conservation groups expressed sympathy but echoed concerns about the safety risks involved. Meanwhile, some shark behaviorists offered a different perspective. They suggested the bite may have been a case of misidentification, an exploratory or defensive reaction rather than a deliberate attack. Sharks sometimes mistake unfamiliar shapes for prey or threats in the dim, shifting underwater light, especially if movements are sudden or erratic. These experts defended the practice of uncaged filming with strict protocols, though they acknowledged the inherent dangers. Owen, for his part, refused to accept criticism lightly. His passion for sharks and their conservation was genuine, rooted in years of study and respect for these apex predators. However, the attack changed his outlook profoundly. In the weeks after his release from the hospital, he began to reconsider the balance between risk and reward. When he finally returned to the water, it was inside the familiar metal cage that had once seemed a barrier to authenticity. He acknowledged that the cage provided essential protection, not just from physical harm, but from rash decisions fueled by adrenaline. The experience humbled him, reinforcing the unpredictable power of nature and the fragile thread by which humans hang in the wild. Owen resumed work with a renewed commitment to safety and education. His footage of the attack and recovery became part of a broader message about respecting wildlife boundaries. The segment on Guadalupe Island aired months later, showcasing stunning images of great whites, but with a sober narrative on the risks involved in wildlife filmmaking. Though his career was temporarily paused by injury, Owen emerged stronger, a cautious advocate for coexistence rather than confrontation. His story became a powerful reminder that beneath the ocean's beauty lurks a force that commands respect, one that should never be underestimated, no matter how skilled or passionate the human behind the camera. The great white sharks continued to patrol the waters off Guadalupe Island, enigmatic and indifferent to men's struggles. For Owen Shaw, the ocean remained a place of wonder and danger, where every breath and movement could mean the difference between life and death. The Queensland sun beat mercilessly over the vast, shimmering ocean as Liam Carter and his small crew worked their fishing boat just miles offshore. Liam was a seasoned fisherman, 38 years old, with weathered hands and a sturdy frame honed by years battling the sea's unpredictable moods. His crew, 3 men younger but equally experienced, trusted him implicitly. He knew these waters, where tuna thrived and danger lurked beneath. The boat was modest, a reliable vessel equipped for day trips, but no match for the ocean's raw power. That morning in mid-June 2022, they were hauling a large tuna, a prized catch that promised good money at the market. The air was thick with salt and sweat, and the waves gently rocked the craft as the sun climbed higher. Liam stood at the stern, gripping the heavy fishing line as the fish pulled fiercely. His muscles tensed, and every movement was practiced and precise. The crew around him moved steadily, hauling nets and securing gear. The ocean seemed deceptively calm, with a blue surface sparkling like glass. Without warning, the water erupted beside the boat. A massive shadow surged upward from the depths, a 16-foot great white shark, its body a blur of power and menace. The beast lunged with terrifying speed, jaws snapping wide. Liam barely had time to react before the shark struck, sinking its teeth deep into his left arm with a force that shattered bone and tore flesh. The impact sent Liam sprawling and the boat rocked violently. The sudden chaos capsized the vessel, throwing all aboard into the cold, churning sea. Waves crashed over the overturned hull as the crew fought to stay afloat amid the wreckage. Liam was dragged beneath the surface, his body twisting in the shark's grip. The ocean closed over his head, cold and dark, as the predator shook him violently. His breaths came in desperate gasps, fighting for air in the merciless depths. Above, his crewmates screamed, helpless as the shark's shadow vanished beneath the waves. The remaining fishermen struggled to reach shore, their hands raw from grasping slippery debris. Frantic radio calls went out, and a search was launched immediately, involving Coast Guard vessels and rescue helicopters. Hours turned into days, and the ocean yielded no sign of Liam's fate. On the third day, a grim discovery was made. Liam's body was found tangled in fishing lines, marked by deep bite wounds consistent with the attack. The extensive trauma confirmed what no one dared hope otherwise: he had not survived. The news devastated his family, who had watched and waited with fading hope. The fishing community, close-knit and tough, mourned the loss of one of their own. Authorities investigated the incident, examining the circumstances and safety measures in place. Liam had followed routine protocols, wearing a life jacket and working with his crew. Yet none could protect him from the sheer force of nature's deadliest hunter. Debates erupted over fishing safety, with some calling for stricter regulations and improved protective gear for fishermen operating in predator-rich waters. Others argued that the ocean was inherently dangerous, and such risks were part of the job. The tragedy highlighted the fragile line between livelihood and survival for those who work on the water. Environmental experts noted that great white shark populations off Queensland had been increasing in recent years, a sign of ecological recovery and a growing challenge for coastal industries. The balance between conservation and human safety became a heated topic, drawing attention from politicians, scientists, and local communities alike. For Liam's family, the loss was immeasurable. His wife and 2 young children faced a future without the man who had been their anchor, their protector. Friends and neighbors rallied to support them, sharing stories of Liam's kindness, skill, and love for the sea. Memorial services were held, honoring the fisherman who had dedicated his life to the ocean's demands. The waters off Queensland remained a place of beauty and danger, where the sun's glare hid the shadows beneath. Fishermen like Liam Carter accepted the risks inherent in their trade. Still, his death was a stark reminder that even experience and caution could not always shield against the ocean's fury. In the months following the attack, safety organizations introduced new training programs to educate fishermen about shark behavior and emergency response. Innovations in gear, such as protective suits and alarm devices, were tested but had yet to become standard. The incident underscored the need for awareness and preparedness in waters home to apex predators. Though Liam was gone, his legacy endured, etched in the memories of those who knew him and the ongoing conversation about human coexistence with the wild sea. His story was retold with reverence and sorrow, a cautionary tale of the ocean's unforgiving power and the unpredictable nature of its deadliest hunter. The great white sharks continued to roam the deep blue, creatures of instinct and shadow, indifferent to human tragedy, yet forever linked to it by fate and fear. Off the coast of Queensland, the sea held its secrets tightly, a vast and mysterious world where man's mastery was limited and survival was never guaranteed. For Liam Carter, the sea was home and adversary, a force that gave life and took it away in a single violent moment. His death was a solemn testament to the perilous dance between humans and nature, a reminder that power was absolute and mercy rare in the wild ocean. The morning sun was just beginning to warm the crystal-clear waters off the coast of Maui as Sarah and James Collins slipped quietly into the sea. Newlyweds in their late 20s, they had arrived on the island just days before, eager to celebrate their honeymoon with a shared passion for adventure and nature. Sarah, a graphic designer from Seattle, was known for her fearless spirit and curiosity, while James, a high school teacher from Portland, was steady and calm, a grounding force in their relationship. Both had dreamed of exploring Hawaii's famous coral reefs, and now, with snorkeling gear in hand, they floated together on the surface, ready to dive into the vibrant underwater world. The water was a breathtaking shade of turquoise, warm and inviting. Beneath them, a sprawling coral reef bloomed with color and life. Parrotfish nibbled on coral, iridescent angelfish darted past, and the gentle sway of sea fans created an otherworldly dance. The sun filtered through the water, casting dappled light on the sandy ocean floor below. It was a moment of perfect tranquility, a snapshot of paradise they hoped would remain etched in their memories forever. Their laughter bubbled quietly beneath the waves as they pointed out fish and admired the reef's beauty. James stayed close to Sarah, his hand sometimes brushing hers, a simple gesture of comfort and connection. They had been through many challenges as a couple, but nothing quite like what was about to unfold. Suddenly, a shadow passed swiftly beneath them. A sleek, torpedo-shaped body glided with astonishing speed and precision. A mako shark. Known for being the fastest sharks in the ocean, makos were rarely aggressive toward humans, but their curiosity and lightning-quick reflexes made them unpredictable. The shark circled cautiously, its dark eyes scanning the couple with a cold, calculated interest. Sarah caught sight of the shark first. A mix of excitement and unease flickered through her. She tried to alert James with a gentle nudge, but before either could react fully, the mako's powerful body surged upward with frightening speed. The water erupted around them as its jaws snapped closed on Sarah's right calf, teeth biting deep into muscle and skin with savage force. Pain exploded through Sarah's leg like a bolt of lightning, sharp and searing. Her body jerked reflexively, panic flooding her senses. The taste of salt mixed with the metallic sting of blood as the ocean around her churned violently. James's heart pounded wildly, adrenaline surging through his veins as he lunged to her side. He grabbed her arm tightly, pulling her away from the shark's grasp as it thrashed momentarily, then darted into the blue depths. Blood spread quickly in the water, staining the once pristine scene with vivid crimson. Sarah's leg was a mangled mess, skin torn away, muscle shredded, and deep puncture wounds bleeding profusely. Her breath came in shallow, painful gasps as she clung desperately to James. The moment's terror was raw and overwhelming, yet beneath it lay a fierce determination to survive. Together they fought the choppy waves, struggling to reach the boat waiting not far away. Above the surface, crew members shouted and splashed, throwing ropes and life rings. The captain leaned over the side, hauling them aboard with urgency and care. James supported Sarah's weight, careful not to worsen her injury, while medics immediately set to work applying pressure bandages to stem the bleeding. Despite the grave nature of her wounds, Sarah remained conscious, eyes wide with shock and pain, but focused. James's presence was a steadying force amid the chaos, his calm voice offering unspoken reassurance. The minutes stretched long and torturous as they prepared for evacuation to a medical facility, where surgeons awaited to begin the painstaking process of saving her leg. In the hours that followed, Sarah endured multiple surgical procedures. Tendons were repaired, muscles stitched, and infection was aggressively fought with antibiotics. The pain was relentless, yet her resolve never faltered. Each breath, each movement was a battle, but she faced it with quiet courage. James was by her side, a constant companion who refused to leave her alone, offering strength when her own wavered. The emotional toll was immense. Sarah struggled with moments of despair, the vivid trauma replaying in her mind. The ocean that had once been a place of joy and discovery now seemed a realm of danger and loss. But James's unwavering support was a lifeline, anchoring her through the darkest hours. Their shared ordeal transformed their honeymoon from a carefree escape into a profound journey of survival and renewal. Local authorities and marine experts weighed in on the incident, which quickly became a topic of discussion among residents and tourists alike. The attack was rare, but it served as a stark reminder of the unpredictability of wild animals, even those generally regarded as non-aggressive. Mako sharks, prized for their speed and power, could act defensively when startled or curious, especially in areas where humans intrude on their territory. For Sarah and James, the attack deepened their connection. Fear had momentarily threatened to tear them apart, but instead, it forged a new bond of trust and gratitude. James's courage under pressure and Sarah's resilience in recovery revealed layers of strength neither had fully known before. The ocean's wild unpredictability tested their love, but did not break it. Months passed as Sarah underwent intensive physical therapy, relearning how to walk and move without pain. James adjusted his life to support her healing, balancing work with caregiving and always being patient and present. The couple found solace in small victories: Sarah's first pain-free steps, moments spent laughing despite the scars, quiet evenings spent reflecting on what they had endured. Their story became a quiet inspiration in their community, a testament to human resilience in the face of nature's power. They spoke less about the attack and more about the lessons it taught: the need for respect for wild animals, the fragility of life, and the strength found in love and companionship. The ocean remained in their lives with all its beauty and danger, a reminder of the fine line between wonder and peril. Sarah and James vowed never to let fear overshadow their passion for exploration, but they carried with them a newfound respect and humility toward the sea's mysteries. The Mako shark continued to glide through the deep Hawaiian waters, a swift guardian of the reefs, indifferent to the human stories etched on the surface. For the Collins couple, the ocean was no longer just a backdrop for adventure. It was a powerful force that had tested their limits, challenged their courage, and ultimately deepened their bond in ways they had never imagined. Through pain and healing, fear and hope, their love endured, stronger and more profound, forged by the jaws of a predator and the unbreakable will to survive together.